Hey, everyone, including you, Stephen. Sean was like, I wish you would tell me what you were afraid of. And so I did. I was like, I'm afraid of lies most of all. And then I just set myself free from it because I said, I'll just believe everything is a lie. And then it'll be the truth. You know? Then I don't have to believe anything. And, oh, Sean also said, well, maybe blind faith is what you're afraid of. And I'm like, maybe. If somebody asked me to jump off a building, I would. If they said you were going to be all right. I don't know. I already said I did that, you know. I wouldn't stand in the fire, I would jump, you know. So, and then I was like, well, maybe, you know, maybe you're afraid of the truth. And I was like, well, if it's all lies, then it's the truth. Set myself free from that too. I know that like Jewish people were afraid of Jesus and Muslims were afraid of images of Muhammad. Native Americans, they would have probably been afraid of nature, the beauty and the violence in it, and understood it in some other ways. I'm not afraid of my Native American heritage. I never mentioned it much. Seminole Indian. Christians would have been afraid of the devil. Let's see what else. Other religions. They had their own belief structures that they were afraid of. I know, right? I was going to go silent. I was like, I was sitting outside. Oh, that's a good one to do. Is what are you afraid of? Lies. And then if I believe everything is a lie, then it's the truth. So then it's not a lie. So I overcame that fear. I'm not ashamed of sexuality. I'm not afraid of addiction. I was like, we're probably living in sober land, like dry land. I'm not afraid of being in charge. I've been in charge so many times in my life. I'm not afraid of walking away or leaving. I've done that. I'm not afraid of love. I usually give that away to people even if they don't like me. I'm not afraid of my dreams coming true. I learned that in the past not to get my hopes up. So I just decided that, you know, I decided I wouldn't get my hopes up. I'm not afraid of the truth. I said that. And I dare others to actually even say it to Stephen and see. I doubt they would. You know, I'm not afraid about being rich or famous or being poor. I've been, I've not been rich or famous. I've been made out to be a monster in the past, and I'm not afraid of that. I kind of dispelled that myth. I'm not afraid of being deconstructed as an individual. I'm not afraid of exposure or silence. I've been that too. I'm not afraid of being without my children. I've been that. I was, I'm not afraid of fighting. I've done that. I'm not afraid of Tom Chance. I said I would smite him even in hell. Interesting too, because I just told Sean this the other night. I was like, um, if you take Hallquist and Lindquist and add the first four letters of them together, it spells Holland, as in my other, my grandma's side. I'm not afraid of family secrets. Sean thought I was afraid of pedophiles or sex offenders. And I never, I mean, I understood, I studied um, sexual disorders in school. And I remember reading all about them. And I'm not afraid to talk about sexual abuse because I lived through that. And physical abuse. And emotional abuse. And I forgave people all the time. I'm not afraid of self forgiveness or letting go of things. There's a difference between letting go of things and keeping their memory alive somehow, or the memory of those events alive somehow. I'm not afraid of what Sean might represent. I'm not afraid of talking to people or others. Our magic. I understand that. I always did. I'm not afraid of giving up or dying. I'm not afraid of being dead or being awake. I don't know if I told you that, but I once had to let hospital staff take care of me. It was the hardest thing I ever did, is to tell this doctor that I had a chemical addiction problem. And I had worked with her, and she looked at me like, eh, you know. I'm sure they told people in the cities at the time. I went to Methodist Hospital once for a lumbar puncture, and that doctor did it on purpose. He had a nerve. It's because they thought I wrote horrible things about your mother. I'm not afraid of saying that I told them multiple times that somebody was in my computer. And that I had used, not afraid of that either. I told people, and they knew. They just didn't say anything. I'm not afraid of the idea that I've been skipping around in time. I know, right? You're like, you're crazy. And I'm not afraid of getting help if I need it, which I don't. I don't. I'm not afraid of being cursed, because I usually try to like change that around. Well, some would say, well, you're the devil. That's what they thought. It's like, whatever. I'm not afraid of being not from this planet. I know my blood tastes different. I like cut myself on my finger, and I was like, and there was like weird. I know you think, well, how do you know your blood tastes? uh, when we were younger, we had like blood brothers. Those crazy times. I'm not afraid of pain. I've lived through that. I think the lies were the thing that I was probably my biggest fear is lies. And now that I can just say that everything is a lie, then it's not a fear anymore. I think some people would say, well, she walks around inside your body, and I'm not afraid of that either. you know, whether it be Savea or Tara or Mia or I'm not afraid of accusing people of what they did to Stephen Philip Lindquist. But I don't have to accuse them. you know, that's their deal. And I'm also not afraid of being harsh with children. Not harsh, but just like, you know what? When you're learning to walk, you fall down. And then you get up, and then you fall down. And then you get up. Same with the bike. You learn how to ride bikes, you get on there and you pedal them, and if you fall, you get up and you do it again. And sometimes there's training wheels. You know? Yeah, sometimes you have training wheels on. Like, I'm not afraid of accepting help from others. I'm not afraid of listening to visions inside my head of different things. In fact, I think I listen to the dead all the time. Yep. Yeah. So, I don't know. I wonder, like, what other people's fears are. Oh, they would say the truth is fearful. One of the most feared things. So they believe it's a lie. And then it's not real to them. And I'm here to say that it's real and not a lie, and therefore the truth. I know that court's been a lie, I set up since the beginning, and yet I go through with it, and because it's not my trial. It's theirs. And I am still trying to help them, and I have no reason to. I'm not saying, I'm not afraid of saying no. I say no all the time. I'm not afraid of watching millions of people die. I said that before, I've seen that. Not millions, but in my practice as a nurse, I saw lots of people die. I'm not afraid of being a judge in that matter. I said I could be either way, or three ways. I could be I could be either let them all die, save them, warn them, or sit in the middle and just watch it all fall. I could be like that too. I think sometimes one of the biggest problems with truths and lies is coming to terms with which ones do you need to believe in your heart for it to be real to you. Not for Stephen, but for others and for people. Which truth or lie is, you know, are there a difference? At one time I said, I tell people truths that they are able to understand at the time. And then when I'm gone, they're like, oh, why didn't we listen then? And that's the thing, you know. And I've sacrificed myself enough, you know. And just by telling you this stuff, you can either believe that it's true or believe that I'm lying. And you can either understand the language that I'm using, or you can wait and figure it out later on your own. They changed all my language books. It's funny, right? I do remember Old Spanish and Old French and some Old German and Old Swedish that I learned. Those were the 4 languages that I studied the most. So, I even bought the books. I'm not afraid of growing old. I'm not afraid of destroying stuff or creating stuff. Chaos never bothered me. Sean goes, well, you lied. You know, I said, well, you probably needed to hear that at the time for what you were going to do. You know? And then I said, well, they picked on the wrong Lindquist. You know? And they did. They're like, holy shit. Now what do we do? His mind goes everywhere. I keep having these feelings that I go into other people's bodies. And I'm like, oh, just be okay. You know? And yesterday I was thinking, there were reasons that I didn't move places that I did because I saw like, oh yeah, that won't work. You know, I saw like disasters happening there, and I was like, no. I take my glasses off so I can see a little differently. I can't. I can see all right, and I practice. I even practice climbing the stairs with my eyes closed. You know, not that I can't see with my eyes shut too. It's just different. I don't mean to scare anybody by saying any of this stuff. You just need to come to terms with whatever truth you want to believe. And some people laugh, and some people are like, yeah, we did it. And I don't have any blame for any. I don't have any blame for anyone or any other person or any spirit or soul. That's their own cross to carry, our burden. And I'm not afraid of blaming people because I could blame many people if I wanted to. I had this kind of vision and they're when I'm awake. So it's like I was sitting there and I'd seen Sean going up in the desert with all these people around and then went to this stone throne and sat there and I was watching him and I just covered my mouth and I just walked away with some others. And that was not here or who knows where it was, when it was. And he was yelling at me. And there's something else that I saw that I walked away from once and volunteered for. And then they said, well, don't mention that. The full detail of what you saw. I had that other vision of walking through a burnt out forest on fire, like these blue mists fire around me, and being like a water element. I was like, somebody was following me. And I was just walking this burnt, scorched out earth by myself. I wasn't even sad about it. I was just like, you know, because I know one thing about nature. I mean, like some trees and stuff, they recede in ash and they come back. And sometimes nature does that. It destroys itself to, have new growth. And some people are like, well, that's what you're doing. You're destroying yourself for something new. And I'm like, well, you could have just asked me. I would have been like, all right. I have no problem deconstructing myself into nothing. Even though I don't think that's the purpose of anything, nothingness, since there's no made word for it. I mean, you would think that even in Buddhism and Zen, that nothingness would be the absence of something, or just the futile gesture of doing something for nothing, just for doing it, you know? I saw this image of this man that I actually felt pretty like, wow, like, all right, that's Stephen somewhere. And then I was like, great, seal, lion, you know, yeah, or a clown. So I was just doing that thing with the cursor. um, I'm not afraid of that either. You know what I guess maybe I'm more afraid of than having my life be an open book. I would be more afraid of what kind of being would be so in need of somebody else's life, I would wonder what kind of shallowness and hollowness lived in them that they thrived on. And that would not be my fear. That would be my fear for them. That their own emptiness was filled somehow through invading others' privacy. And then I would be like, then my giving him that information would probably be a curse to them. Be like, oh, now we know and we have to listen because of our arrogance in the past. And that would be a fear that I would have that they would be carrying. And isn't that funny? It's a fear that I have that for them and not for myself. I told Sean that I said no matter what, I wouldn't have wished anybody to have walked my life for me. I had a hard enough time walking it myself. It wasn't easy. I told Sean I was easy at one time. It was a lie. You know, it wasn't really a lie. In some regards, I am easy. I'm like, all right, I can believe lies. I can believe the truth. I can believe in destruction and creation. Just tell me. You want me to believe in war, anarchy, famine, pestilence, beauty, peace, harmony, serenity, alien nations. I mean, just what do you want me to believe in? I could believe we lived in a forest, a faraway land, surrounded by a magical force field. I mean, I could see it all, those possibilities. And it wouldn't, I mean, I'm not beyond any one of those possibilities. I'd be like, all right, total destruction, fine. Total peace, okay, perfect. You know. Isn't that weird? I did train myself for that. I participated in activities that, you know, I participated in being a nurse for a long time. I thought I was helping, and most of the time I was fighting the organizations to see what they were doing to people, you know. And maybe it's different now. I saw new technology and new stuff. And that looked really well. But in the past, it was not pretty. It was not. We had, you know, yeah. Oh, there's this disorder called Munchausen's by proxy. And it was where parents were intentionally hurting their children when they had a medical condition. They would be poisoning them and um, or doing something to make them sick. And it was horrible. And I used to they videotaped people doing it. Like in the room, in the ICU rooms. I took care of that boy once, and I was so mad at his dad. I, I wouldn't leave the room, you know. And I'm not afraid of facing all those demons, you know, why did you help them so much? Why did you care when all they did was hurt you and hurt you and hurt you and did things to test you and to make you leave all the time? Why did you still care about them? I don't know. I did. I still do. I feel like when I have my glasses off, I can see what people look like. Sometimes people look one dimensional, or I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Sometimes they look, well, I'm not going to say what they look like. But with my glasses off, I can really see like all the stuff around me. Especially when I move my eyes, then it's like then there's just these waves of. And the other thing I was gonna say, I was afraid of disappointment, and now I've just been like, I'm not gonna be disappointed. There's nothing that can disappoint me anymore. I made Sean come with me to pick up my check, and of course they didn't have it. And I texted the man that I was working for, and I was like, "There's no need to be ashamed. I'm not angry, and there's no hurt feelings. Please call me." You know. And he called, and I was like, "Thank God he called." Because I was like, I had expected those things to happen. I had expected to go to interviews and then be like, "Oh, we changed the date." I'd expected people to treat me poorly, and they did. And I expected others would do the same, and they did. Except I keep seeing this place where we're going to live, some of us. And it's the only place that I've ever seen in my life living. So, I suppose I could expect people to treat me well, you know, you know, and see that. Expect to get jobs. I'm overqualified for some of them. And yet I'm like, oh, well, that's not a surprise, you know? And then I call them and I say, um, yeah, Volunteers America, I was at Bar None in the 80s for 2 years. I know more about how to help children than anyone, having lived through it. And they were like, well, we picked somebody else. And then their ad was still on line. And I was like, oh. So I called them and she was like, well, oh, actually, I left a message for one of them and she didn't call me back. I think she was ashamed too. And if you're listening, you can call me back and tell me why you didn't hire me. I'm right across the park from you. I saw where you had some of those kids, you know. Maybe I am ashamed of that. I know my friend Brenda would be. She would be like, that is not how we treated you. You know, we went on outings, we went to cabins, we went to the Boundary Waters, we were outside all the time, we grew gardens, we were, you know, and maybe this is my lesson about, well, you know, whatever. My lesson about helping. And Sean's always like, well, you need to help yourself, you know? And I do. And that's why I'm saying all this stuff. But I'm not going to get roped into the idea that I'm to blame. That blame lies with people who took my words and didn't understand me in the first place and were too afraid to ever ask. And when they did ask, it was like, Oh, I don't want to know that. I feel horrible now. You know, and Sean's right too. They do want you when you're gone. And then it's too late. Or it's, you know, too late when you're gone. I don't know. I asked to videotape myself in court, and since the Attorney General's office let me do it at my trial at the nursing board, I would imagine since my trial at court, which is not my trial, would have the same rules. But they were like, and since I would do it exactly what I'm doing right now, you know, with no witnesses, save myself, you know, Stephen. And I know, I did say that the other day, and I feel a lot better. Like I pulled all those pieces that were out there, the ones that I knew were out there, that I cared about, I pulled those back into me. You know. We had a great picnic the other day. We did. It was cold though. We're gonna try to do it up in the apartment. Um, oh, I'm not. I'm just sitting around this teddy bear. That's what they called it. You know, I got it in New York on the street at a fair, like a, you know how they sell things in New York. It was so long ago. And then I never used to wash it, and they washed it for me, and I was like, ugh. Wasn't happy about that, but you know, what do you do? So, yeah. Oh, yeah, Target. Good. I said I would be worse, Dad, than anything. See some serious something. Um, the name thing, I was going to go through that again, but I'm not going to. I found my grandma's scripture birthday book, and I started adding names to it. You know, I was so old. I suppose that's enough about the past. I'm trying to work on just accepting everything as a lie, and that it has no face value. And then if you believe that I'm lying, then you'll have to go, now, oh gosh, is he telling the truth? Ugh. Look what we did. What did we make him out to be? And he's telling us all this stuff to help us, and we have to listen. And he doesn't have to. So maybe that's my challenge, is to look at your fears and see how you can overcome them. I lied about my fears in the past. I needed to protect Stephen from other people. I didn't lie about my ability to love both men and women at different times, or about my sexuality, or about my addictions, you know, or my belief about AA. You know, I believe in it if other people believe in it. I told you mine already. I was more into that innate health stuff. That we're all healthy and we all have issues, you know, and everybody has some kind of addiction. whether it be to the past, to love, to hate, to shopping, to something, drugs and alcohol. I said it was going to be sober land, so, you know, I suppose whatever. I didn't actually say it, I heard that in my head. I was deciphering some codes that keep getting sent to me from someone else. Yeah, so if you think that I'm lying, then I challenge you to think that I'm telling the truth. I guess there'd be only one way to prove it, is to prove that I'm lying. Since none of you were there, you can't. And that's something that you have to think about. There's no way you can prove that I'm lying. I have all of my memories in my mind intact of those events. And those memories intact of knowing what was going to happen before it happened and then avoiding it. Except maybe this time. I saw what I thought happened with a whole bunch of people, and I still walked into this. But then again, I said I'm always in the places that I need to be. And whether that's in your shit, in your problems, in your fault, that's where I am. And I'm not afraid of that either. And I am, well, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I challenge you to do that too, with each other. You can just say, to each other, I don't like you for this, and, get over it. Move on. I still have some shedding of the past to do to get it out there so that I can move on. And it might take a while. It might take a while. Lord knows I've been thinking about other possibilities and different things I was laying in bed the other night and looking up at the ceiling, and I was just people were talking to me from the ceiling, and they were like, we don't know what to do. I don't think we've ever met somebody that could be so callous about watching millions of people die, and on the same hand love other people that he doesn't even know. I think that was a foreign concept. How can you do that? How could you? And I was like, because I have watched it before. Not millions. But I mean, one person might as well be that. And I don't mean it like that, but you know what I mean. Watching one person is hard enough. And I save my judgments for those that will need it when the time is right. And like I said, I can be either you're all going to die, or you're all going to have to live with yourselves for an eternity. Sometimes I think that living with yourself for an eternity is the worst punishment. Death is easy. It's easy. And then you don't just die, you come back, is what you need to. You know, I honestly forbid Stephen from having any more women in his line. You know, I didn't do it. She did. She said that'll be their curse. They'll never have another woman from your line in your family ever again. My family had a lot of women in it, and that'll change. And women, I mean, different than the sexual characteristics that I had, you know. So, I know, she was not happy, but she said that is going to be, she understood. She was like, that's fair. You know, I said I would have 3 sons one day. I saw them. Just a matter of time. Who knows? So now it's up to you. It's up to all of them to believe. Try to disprove me. Or try to disprove my consciousness. And since none of them were there, that'll be an impossibility. But I challenge you to try to do that. You know, come up with proof that says I wasn't there in a different time. That might take a while. I can wait though. And I'm not afraid of waiting. And I have all the time in there. Tricky, right?